I'm Austin Davis. I'm from Goodman Oaks Church of Christ. Most of us have seen the Hunger Games series, right? If you haven't, you're missing out. In the series, the United States, known as Panem in the story, was split into 12 districts. The 12 districts each show a distinctive career path of today. District 12 are coal miners and reside in a very hot and dirty environment. District 1 is the nicest district and is responsible for luxury items like jewelry, which are used to decorate the capital. While the capital hoards their riches, the districts live in poverty and uncleanliness. Just like the poor in James, they have very low paychecks and often don't get paid at all. They live in a constant state of oppression. I ask you now, what does oppression look like today? The definition of oppression is prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. Communism is oppression. They take away the lives of their residents and force them to do something that they may not want to do. On the contrary, oppression can also be the way that you view yourself. It can be the way that you view others. It can be the way that others view you. Are you being oppressed? If so, who is oppressing you? Is it your boss? Is it your peers? Is it your friends? Is it even your family members? Are you oppressing anyone? Who are we to oppress someone because they sin differently? Who are we to judge someone because they hold grudges when we hold grudges the exact same way? Who are we to hoard money when there are people requiring help all across the world? In James 5, 1-3, James warns us of the dangers of riches. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh like fire. These verses speak directly to those who have accumulated riches at the expense of others by emphasizing the fleeting nature of hoarding money. He explains that one day it will all mean nothing. As followers of Christ, we are called to be good stewards of the resources that have been entrusted to us, using them to bless others and further God's kingdom. In verse 4, behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you have kept back by fraud, are crying out against you. And the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. How would you feel if your boss took your paychecks? Would you feel angry? Would you feel scared? Would you lash out against your boss? Would you even feel lost? To quote Rocky, life is not all sunshine and rainbows. We will face trials. We will face oppressors. We will face worldly desires. We will face the wretched works of the devil. In verse 7 it explains, be patient therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it, until it receives the early and the late rains. James encourages us to be patient in times of suffering. He reminds us that the Lord is coming one day, and he will fulfill his promise to us. In verse 11, behold, we consider those who remain steadfast. We consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. Job is a very rich, we see in the text that it mentions Job. Job is a very rich man who fears God and turns away from evil. It is said that he was the greatest among the East. In this book, the Lord allows Satan to test Job. Satan then takes Job's property and his children. Even after all this, it says, then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Can you imagine? Can you imagine your house and your land taken from you? Can you imagine your kids taken from you? But would you be able to turn away from your anger and despair and look to the Lord and remain true to his word? It is hard as humans to be steadfast and patient in the eyes of your oppressors. It is hard as humans to be steadfast and patient during trials. It is hard as humans to be steadfast and patient while awaiting the harvest, just as we are to await his return. The Apostle Paul speaks of a level of maturity that we all must reach in order to be truly steadfast. Ephesians 4:13-16, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, so that we may no longer be children, tossed to and fro by the waves and carried out by every wind of doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness and deceitful schemes. Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and held together by every joint with which it has equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. As it states, maturity means all Christians together as the church, ultimately attaining a state of oneness of the contents of faith and acceptance and possession of complete, correct, and full understanding of Christ, and being completely filled with Christ's essence. And I remind you now, as the Lord has reminded us in John 14, let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you myself, that where I am, you may be also, and you know the way to where I am going. Hmm? You gotta earn your food. Hmm?